The counts are 136 out the gorgeous one, and did the black card get there yet? 68 out the black.
We had a wiretap.
We knew at that moment that we had Terry's phone.
Meech brought the heat to...
Okay, I just watched the season 2 of Blowing Money Fast, where the mysterious, elusive Terry Southwest T. Flenory finally makes his appearance. And it's told from his perspective, he's the star of the series, just like Meech via phone call was season 1 of Blowing Money Fast, which was the story told by Big Meech basically over the phone, and they interviewed who he wanted interviewed. This season is told from Terry's perspective, and they reuse some of the same people, of course, who, my friend Cavario, Scott Bernstein, two of my good friends and colleagues in the crime content business, not in the crime business. But so, did Terry want to kill Demetrius? Were the brothers really at each other's throats? And I'll get straight to that because it's interesting. The police themselves say they might have floated that rumor. Well, they imply it. They talk a lot about...
It's a great technique to take two leaders of an organization and pit them against each other.
Playing them against each other, and because that was their end. That was a sign of weakness. And anytime you're in a battle, so if you're the federal government and you're trying to bring down some traffickers, it's sort of like, it's like a military operation in a sense. So anytime you can sow confusion, doubt, chaos in the enemy or the target, you do. So I don't think Terry actually put a hit on Big Meech, which was one of the things that was said and is in the book, I think. Where's the wiretap? Where's the evidence? Where's the person? If he put a hit out on him, why didn't it happen? They, of course, famously had not talked in quite a long time. I did a story based on what some people said, including Blue Da Vinci. Probably true, about Terry and his crew leaving Big Meech and them on the hook for $3 million, and Big Meech having to talk himself out of getting taken out by the CARTEL. But, having seen Terry speak, and then we all are familiar with Big Meech's personality, who knows, maybe Terry, maybe there was just an unpaid debt that Terry thought it was Meech's fault, and so he left. But a lot of stuff is still unclear. You would need someone like me to sit down with him to get the real layout, and maybe we'll never get the real layout, because one thing I did learn from this one, the first one was a kind of a stuff we all knew because it was from Meech's perspective. This one gave a little more sense of, neither one of the seasons, but this one gave a little more of a sense of what was the actual size of the conspiracy, like how many bricks were they getting every month? And I go back and forth. For a while I was thinking, well, maybe it wasn't that big, or, maybe it was. You can only really judge by what got caught. They say there was 465 kilos or something seized, but like half of that actually belonged to Jerry Davis, who was Sin City Mafia, which was a different guy. Sin City Mafia, Phoenix City, Alabama, that's near Atlanta. When I studied Craig Petty's, of course, I did a video that got a lot of views comparing Craig Petty's and Big Meech. As far as black drug trafficking, the American South, the eastern seaboard and the south, and then blurring up into the Midwest, Detroit and Chicago. There's so many large, medium cities, even little cities you never heard of, where there's trafficking at, where there could be, I mean, there was a guy out of the small town in Mississippi, Super Dave. What's his last name? He cooperated with the government in the Petty's case, but he was a huge, he ran through thousands of kilos. The guy out of Mobile, Alabama, that Honeycomb Brazy beefed with, who would brag about his work with the police and how that protected him, and then how he got rid of his competitors. He had a 4,000 kilo conspiracy. I don't know that much was, I don't know, was it specified in the BMF case? Because all they really do, like even in the cases against people out of Mexico, they'll just specify enough to be the threshold, right? Like, so if, I think it's just 5 kilos or more puts you at the top offense level for the volume of yayo or H or meth or whatever. And then they add charges like continuing criminal enterprise, RICO, violence in aid of a RICO, and then that's how you get all the time. But once you get beyond 5 kilos, you're at kind of the statutory maximum for just the drugs itself. So they don't bother to, it's not like they're going to log everything in, even in the indictments against Video Guzman and all that. It just mentions a couple specific transactions, but that's certainly not all that they did. So I'd be interested to know, and they may never answer the question, how many were you really getting? Was it thousands a month? There, one of the law enforcement, when I first started doing the documentaries, because I was one of the first ones to do these urban street crime of stuff that was still, had just happened, or the people were still around, not that many people would participate, but if they did, it was all totally honest, and the police were honest, because they were doing it because they just were interested maybe in the history of it like I was, or just in telling the truth. But now so much stuff is made, and there's money, and people want to get movies made. Even law enforcement who work the case, you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. Like in this part 2 with Terry, they say, at one point BMF accounted for half of all the Sinaloa's sales. That's not true. I mean, that just isn't true. Like, that's not true. Like, you know how many people are buying? Like, that's just not true. Like, random people you never heard of put together hundreds of kilos. And having done a lot of these stories now, and having met different guys in Detroit and all different cities that, are convicted of being major traffickers in the past, whether, maybe they dealt in different drugs. If you have a connection to some people overseas, like for the Yafis, Mexico is not overseas, but in another country, in a source country for the Yafis, like the amount you can run through an awful lot of that stuff. So that was a wiretap. That was some cards. That was a count someone was giving Terry of 168 in one car and 60 something in another car. That's 200 kilos. So how often was that happening? That wasn't no once a month. That might have been, I used to think of these, because you grow up, you're watching Miami Vice, you think of, we're going to make a big deal, and they go and they buy 100 kilos on the yacht in the Miami harbor. But really, if you're running at that level, it's a daily operation. they're selling kilos like people are selling rocks. Like, they're getting stuff is coming in, because remember, it's coming over the border, and there's a constant flow of it coming over the border, right? There's a semi-truck made it through, someone came in a car that has 10 kilos, someone, sometimes a big load comes in, we got a tunnel open and we're running them through, but then the people that get them, that receive them, they have different people pressing them. We got people in, there's different people who want them. So if you're someone in San Diego who you're at the end of the tunnel that Hapo is sending stuff through and you're getting hundreds a day, there's a lot of people around America that want it. It's not like everyone's just going to get what they want. So you're putting together, and then there's different people bringing it in. So, I'm in LA and I want to get 100 of them. Well, I might got to get 20. He got 23 of them. This guy got 40. Someone else got 6. But then if I wait till tonight, he got another 10, and that'd get me to 100. So they probably had, Terry was responsible for the logistics more so. Boy, it'd be interesting to get an interview with the Doc Marshall guy, but he's laying lower than low. But that's what was interesting to as I've learned more about these big drug operations. You realize how much, like if you're rolling, like how much is really coming in. I would imagine they probably, maybe several times a week, they may have been getting a couple 100 kilos. So 1,500 a month, 2,000 a month, 1,000 a month. I think they were probably more in that range. They had to be. For the amount of people that were getting 5s and 10s, 10 people getting 10, it's 100, but it's 100 people in the indictment. Now, some of the BMF cases, because the Black Mafia family name had gotten blown up, they were using it in federal cases. Were all of them really related to Terry and Demetrius? Maybe, maybe not. But most of them probably were. But one medium-sized city, the guy in Louisville. Louisville can absorb huge amounts of D-rugs, right? Jam Master Jay was grabbing them. Like, it just adds up. Remember, Jam Master Jay was just one guy that Terry was messing with. They didn't touch on that at all in the documentary. I guess story hadn't really well, no, when they shot it, that was known. That was known, because I did a story a couple years ago. No, that was known. I don't know why they didn't want to touch on that. Maybe Terry didn't want to open that can of worms. Some people say that's why he got let out early, because he gave up. He told them that Jam Master Jay was involved with him getting cocaine, and that there was these other guys, friends of Jam Master Jay, so-called friends, who probably killed him. But I don't know that to be true. I'm not saying that's true. That would have been an interesting topic for them to touch on. But maybe he didn't want to open a can of worms of even... The topic would have been how all these rappers, even Jam Master Jay was old and never rapped about selling drugs. So if he was involved in selling drugs, how many of these street rappers, Jeezy, in neither documentary did they ever ask about, well, did Jeezy really get kilos? Now, that's probably inappropriate. They're not going to answer. But, it'd be interesting, I guess, as a viewer to know. But having traveled around the country and know a lot of people in a lot of different places, America's a big place. You can really sell a lot of... So when you're in different cities, you can really run through a lot of stuff. Tanisa Welch, Terry's former, I don't know if they are officially married or not, but girlfriend, she talks about just the amount of money being just kind of shocking, kind of scary. Like we're just body bag, not duffel bags, body bags, you know, like 6-foot duffel bag full of just always. There's so much to talk about in the BMF. They did a good job in this one. They kept it on Terry because he was there to be interviewed, and they make it more about the relationship between the brothers. He does go back in the past and talk about the violence there in Southwest Detroit in their neighborhood, and them leaving town. In season 1, Meech talks about his connection with the Newell brothers, the guy in the BMF stars K9, or the guys I interviewed in real life, KK Newell and his brother Lawrence, aka Dog, being their first big plug. But Terry talks about him having, long story short, Blowing Money Fast, season 2, Terry Flenory finally talks, Southwest T. So he's someone we never saw. He definitely has a different personality. You kind of, maybe he was the real, I'm not going to say he was Meech's boss because they were partners, but I think he was the one that made it run logistically. Meech is going to describe things how he wants to make it always be about him. Meech kind of leaves his brother out in season 1. He doesn't, you know, it's all about what connect he met and what he did. Money changes you. They both had a lot of money pass through their hands. They had a lot of people treating them like royalty, like gods. When you come out of these depressed economic areas where the chance to make any money is limited, I see how people treat drug dealers in Detroit who are much smaller than them. Like, they worship them. It's like a cult, drug dealer cult in Detroit. Like LA got a gang cult, Detroit's got a drug dealer cult. Or did. I mean, I don't know. The world's changed so much in the last couple of years. Maybe that's ending. But, for example, the feds were on them. And one of the times they started first getting a glance of who Terry was, or a sense of Terry's importance and power, let me say that, Southwest T. One of the drivers for the crew. And there was they had a lot of, as you can see from these charts, they had a lot of people working. One of the drivers got in a car accident and died, and they were friends, so they had a big funeral. He was one of the guys that was there from the start, so everyone was at the funeral. And Terry, the way Terry's, Southwest T's appearance at the funeral is like, a scene out of The Godfather, the way the mob probably was in the 50s, before Appalachian, before they started keeping it low, where he everyone's there, this car pulls up and they gather around the car and he barely cracks the window and people are running up and touching his hand like, oh my God, because he got the power to change your life. He can direct, we're going to start sending Al $50 a month in, Dayton, Ohio, and make him the biggest person in Northern Ohio. So he had the power to change your life, and or at least financially. And then they got their leadership got a lot of people locked up too. But it is true that, the feds also said this, and the way it's described of, all the wiretaps that are bad are Terry, Southwest T. He had a lot of phones and he changed them up all the time, but they probably had an inside. We still will never know on that case. I've had people tell me they knew Terry and Meech to be paying off federal agents. None of that was ever mentioned. Is it true or is it not? I don't know. Probably for them to operate on that level. who really gave information, who didn't. A lot of people in all those cases. I would say, those two guys did the most time. They were at the top of the food chain. Meech only did about 20. Terry has been home a while, Southwest T. He only did, when did he come home? In 2020? I mean, he did about 15 years. That's a long time, don't get me wrong, but he has had a successful reefer strain. He's had the two, what did they call it, 263, or did they call it Black Mafia? Or what the hell did they call it, 263? But anyways, he was doing the weed strands. That was doing good for him. I saw him out at a restaurant in downtown Detroit, not maybe a while ago. He had a little entourage with him. Those two guys certainly, they can't hustle. I mean, I don't think they're doing anything shady. Those days are over. But interesting to wonder, I always tell people when they say, "Oh, do you think so and so had money when he got out?" And I say, no. Even if you stashed, millions of dollars when it's that many years and there's that many hands, say you had $10 million and you have just your wife and a couple kids and then your partner and his wife or something. If they're all taking $100,000 a year, I mean, that's $500,000 a year. So 10 years, $5 million is eaten up. You can't put it in investments, but were there bags of money stashed? $500,000 here, $1 million there, 300,000, 100,000 around the country. Did they go to prison with people owing them who didn't get locked up, who held them down, who sent the money to a family member? Perhaps. I'm sure the feds are watching them closely, so they have to be careful if they did with how they spend. But it seems like the thing was so big, could be some hidden fortune out there. There's a Detroit guy, well, I'm not going to say who it is, who he was riding around with my friend. And for those that haven't been to Detroit, but all the abandoned houses and stuff been torn down. This is a guy who the feds keep trying to get. He's done a little bit of time, but he's been put himself in the press, but I won't say. But he was riding around with my friend, and he was saying, "Oh, that vacant lot. There was a house there when I went to prison the first time. I had 600,000 stashed in there, and I had 300,000 stashed in there." So the missing BMF fortune, they put that number 270 million out. They didn't seize no 270 million. They didn't ask him about Diddy. They really didn't. There's still a lot you could still do a lot of stuff. Maybe Terry didn't want to talk about people. I mean, Terry and Meech didn't debrief in the case, so I guess maybe now they just want to talk about themselves and a few people that were convicted, and they don't want to get into all these other, what about this rapper and all that, because that's it's not really dry snitching because the statute of limitations is up, but I guess if a person wanted to talk about it, they would have said, "Oh, I was in the BMF thing. I was getting stuff from them once the statute of limitations ended." So, I don't know. Oh, I was in a restaurant in Southwest Detroit, and my friend had on his BMF entertainment chain. And when we went in there, there was like a table full of some white and black guys sitting. I was like, "Oh, that's the police." And sure enough, one of them came over and was, "Oh, what's that chain? Are you in BMF?" And I'm thinking, it's a TV show now. What's wrong with you? But there was a lot of people involved in that conspiracy. People that were already drug dealers in their given cities, and everybody didn't get caught. So maybe that's why they don't want to talk about stuff. They looked out for a lot of people. I wonder how many people are looking out for them. I don't know what Terry and Meech's relationship is now. They were close enough they weren't going to tell on each other, and they didn't. And it wouldn't have saved. You know, it's funny. What deal would they have given Terry to tell on his brother? I mean, they were still probably going to make Terry do 10 or 15 years, right? Well, that's all he did anyways. So in the end, it worked out pretty well for them. I mean, I ain't gonna say it worked out well. They did a lot of time, but... And even Meech's, you know, people tried to break Meech's reputation with the whole Tammy Collins and snitching. And of course, I did a bunch of stories on it. And like I said in all the stories I did, I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but you can't. A lot of stuff sounds funny. That doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, just think about regular court. Oh, whoops. Someone got robbed around where Al was and had on a gray shirt. Well, okay, it's kind of funny they got a gray shirt too, but should I just, you gonna say I'm guilty because I got on a gray shirt? No, that's not fair. So, of course, Terry wasn't asked about any of that. There was really nothing too dramatic as far as that, but definitely worth watching. I think it's hard to know how big it was. The feds hyping it up, saying they're getting half of what Sinaloa was sending. No way. That's not possible. But they were big. They were big, that's for sure. So Southwest T, Blowing Money Fast, season 2, that's my reaction. Al Prophet, American Dope.